Hey, if you don't know me, my name is Jarrod. I'm not the lead pastor here. Matt's our lead pastor. He's been on vacation, but I've been in a series called Thank God It's Monday. I want to start with a question to get you to thinking this morning. Here's my question. Do you love the work you do? Now, I didn't ask if you loved your job. That's totally different. I'm not talking about like the jobby stuff. I'm just talking about the work you do. Because here's what I know about your job. Even those of you who are retired, who are like, hey, I can turn my brain off. There's nothing for me here today. Listen, you guys have things to do because when I ask for your help around here, like, hey, retired folks, come help with this. You're like, I've got this appointment, blank, and I'm doing that. You guys are busier than working people, okay? So whatever you're engaged with, do you love the work you do? Because most of us in the room, the actual stuff we do, we actually kind of enjoy. It's all the circumstantial stuff around our work, right? Oh man, it's the dude I got to work with. He never carries his weight. He's a lazy bum. He's got a bad attitude. He talks to me like I'm dirt. Whatever it is, that person that you work with, right? Or maybe it's your boss. Maybe you're blaming everything on your boss. Man, if you could see the way she treats us. She is only worried about the bottom line. She only cares about as being the peons who get all the work done. And she sits in her little glass office and looks like she's just drinking coffee all day. I don't know what she does in there, but she doesn't do work, right? Maybe it's just the general like scenario of what it is you're doing right now because you're in between like where you were in school and maybe you're not quite to where you thought you'd be. You're kind of like in that in between, but it's a job and it's paying the bills and you're out of mom's basement and you're proud of yourself and I'm proud of you. But whatever it is, there's something about your job that you hate. But when it comes down to the actual work, like the things that you end up doing during the day, do you love that? Because here's what I'd love to know. I've done this two-part series, and today I just want you to land at the end of this whole thing with this idea that no matter what, on the worst days, you can still love the work you do. And I'm not saying you love everything about your job. I'm just saying that you start to love the work you do. Because your work, as we looked at last week in this thank God it's Monday, just switch our viewpoint a bit. To stop viewing work as something that's cursed. Yes, it was cursed by sin, but in the beginning, God created work as a way for you to engage as the image of God. He created you in His image to partner with Him in the work of thriving in the world, making the world thrive and being a part of this and partner with Him to create this world. And you get to be a part of that. And the work you do today is still a part of that because you're created in the image of God. So here's where we landed last week. There's a couple ideas I want to remind you of. If you weren't here last week, this is kind of like catch up so we can go somewhere today, right? How you define work will define how you work. If you think of work as being slave work, it's just to make it pay the bills. The only reason I do my work is so I can go on vacation. That's literally all I do it for. Whatever it is, if you view work that way, then it will become a meaningless chore. But if you define your work as it comes from God, God has given me purpose and meaning, and He makes my work valuable. It changes the way you work. It changes the way you bring yourself to work. Some of us don't even bring our best to work because we don't think it's worth it to put our best effort in or to give a little bit of extra or maybe even sacrifice for it because it just seems like it's just going to go to somebody else and fine, you guys did whatever. I'm not doing it. So you don't do your best at work. You just bring part of yourself. And some of you don't even engage like fully in it because you're like, I don't enjoy any of this. If I don't enjoy it, I'm just out. But I would like to redefine work. In fact, part of what we said last week is that the work of the image of God is to partner with God for the thriving of the world. And I think that if you're not fully engaged in the work, whatever it is you do, grandparents who are retired, who are now parenting the kids of your kids, like that's hard work, am I right? Like some of you are grandparents and you're being parents to kids of your kids and you're like, man, I'm doing this the second time around. That's hard work. But for the thriving of the world, you have chosen to do that hard work. Maybe it's just in what it is you do every single day for a paycheck. At the end of the day, there's thriving to be had there. And you're like, there's no way my job could be that important. There's no way my job could be partnering with God. There's no way that anything I do during the week actually causes this world to thrive. And I hope by the end of the day, you at least change your perspective on that. Because I believe your work is important. And I think the fact that you're going to partner with God this week is a huge deal. So the obvious question is, well, how do I partner with God where I am? What does that look like? How do I even do that? Because I'm not even sure God is with me during the day at my workplace. I get it. Me neither some days. And I work here. So, I know, you think so. But here's the deal. I want to walk you through the story of God working. And I want to show you how God worked. I want to show you God's first week of work, and I want to show you the pattern He set for us. So that you can see that if you work the way God works, here's what I guarantee. If you'll work the way God works, you'll begin to love your work. You may not love your job, but I think you're going to love the work you're doing. So let's walk through it together. Ready? Let's go back to Genesis 1, verse 2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Now I'm going to stop right here, and you're going to be like, dude, this is so obvious. I'm like, yeah, but let's just stop and let's just think about this for a second and reflect on it. Something that is formless and empty, that's nothing. It's just kind of like formless. Like a gel substance is formless until you give it a form, right? You put a gel or you put a liquid in you have to put it in a form for it to take shape, right? And so here's what God did. God took the ingredients and He gave it form. There's a place for it to sit. And then not only it was empty, but He started to fill it up. Well, how did He do that? Let's watch what He did. Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. And you're like, not a big deal. You know what? This is a big deal. Let me tell you why this is a big deal. Think about what floods do to land. Think about what typhoons and hurricanes do to land. Overflowing rivers, what do they do to dry ground? They destroy the crops, the land, they destroy the dwelling places, the houses, anything that's there, it gets destroyed by water. I want you to think about how important it is that God drew boundaries between the water and the land, right? You know the destructive power that water can have. Imagine your life if you had to wake up every day and wonder if it was going to be underwater today or not. Like it was just chaotic. Like there was no reason or rhyme to it, and you just woke up one day and was like, well, I live in a flooded area now, and then tomorrow is dry again. Like that kind of craziness, right? What happens when you have dry ground that appears and it's left to, like with the boundary, and water rains down from the sky but doesn't flood it every day? What happens with that? Well, the land produced vegetation. Plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. How many of you have ever gone to an apple tree and been like, man, why didn't you produce a banana today? You ever done that? No, you know why you haven't? Because there's trees and plants that produce the same thing over and over and over again. They are according to their kinds producing. There is an order to creation. God's work created order where there was none. There was chaos, it was formless, and it was empty. And the first kind of work God did was create an order to all the things in the universe. We have laws of physics, laws of gravity, different things that He put in place to allow what? Life to thrive. Think about how life thrives because of the laws, the natural laws that are put in place. He put everything in order. And some of you in the room, let me just talk to those of you who are not like me at all, that you love order. You find yourself going around behind all the people in your household going, why can't they just keep things in straight? Why can't they this is where this goes, and this is where this goes. And you love creating. Listen, I'm not making fun of you. I'm saying from those of us who don't do that naturally, thank you. That you create order in a chaotic environment called Jarrod's house. I can't tell you how bad it is, okay? Listen, some of you go to work and you create order. Let me show you. You work like God when you steward resources well. Some of you are really, really good at taking what has been given to you and using it wisely for the good of other people. You don't waste things. You think about it in advance. You order things in advance so that they're here in time for everybody to enjoy. And everybody kind of makes fun of you because you're that person. Oh, gosh, you just love your spreadsheets, don't you? But listen, you create order for people who aren't good at it. Some of you create systems of justice and you maintain those systems of justice. You create order in our society by making sure that there are clear boundaries between that kind of conduct is okay and this kind of conduct is not okay, and that's dangerous, and we got to keep you from doing that again. There is justice done for those who cannot fight for themselves. You create order in our society so we can depend on safety. You improve our physical spaces. Man, I tell you what, the guy who thought of and then built the bypass around Mayfield. I know some of you don't ever drive that way, but that's where my parents live, that way. And to go through Mayfield every time I had to go home from here, it was a chore. until the bypass. Made my life better, right? Think about the people who improve your physical spaces. Think about the people who come in here every single week and make sure these rows are straightened for you. You ever thought about that? You people mess these things up every week. But look, it's orderly. It's put in place. Why? So you can thrive and you can enjoy the moment. Think about people who do that. You help relationships heal. You put order into relationships. Those of you who are counselors, or maybe you're just a good friend at work and you help people order their relationships so they see the value in the people they're married to. They see the value in their kids when they're complaining about them. And you help them understand there's an order to this life even in our relationships. Guys, for those of you who create order naturally because that's the way God wired you, let me just say thank you. You are doing the work of God. You're an image of God creating order in a chaotic world. Let me show you another one because it's not just you who create order. Here's another one. So remember, it's formless and it was empty. So God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the water in the seas and let birds increase on the earth. He also said this to all the animals. He said this to human beings. Notice how in vegetation, everything just grows up. It fills the world, right? God's idea was to create abundance. He didn't just create an orderly world. He created a world filled with good things. Now, I know there's a tendency in this world to think about the fact that there's scarce resources. I don't believe in that. I believe that God gave us, if we steward well, God gave us everything we need to thrive in this life. He filled this world up with good things. For thousands and thousands of years, guys, we're almost at 8 billion people. Are we at 8 billion people? Anybody know the population now? 8 billion people? Listen, we're still feeding most of the world really, really well. We have plenty of resources. So listen, if you work throughout the week to create abundance like this, sometimes those of you who are working like this, you create new jobs. If you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just the kind of person who thinks about, man, we could probably build another shop over here and provide this kind of service to these people, and I need 4 more nurses to go there and do that. Listen, you're creating the kind of jobs that create abundance for those families that work there, but also for the community that gets the health care, or community that gets that service, or gets that, maybe it's just a grocery store. Whatever it is you create for people, do you realize you're creating abundance for the people that you provide that work for? If you simply invite new friends to dinner, people move into this area all the time. They know nobody. They're connected to nobody. They feel alone and isolated. Listen, college students come in here every single year, and their parents send them off, and they're like, oh my gosh, are they going to be okay? Did you know that if you just simply invited some of those people to be your friend, bring them over for dinner, and share the abundance of your social relationships with people, do you realize how huge that is for people? What about creating new farming practices? I know this is a huge agriculture area. I grew up in a family of farmers. There are people around here that think about the fact, yes, the price of eggs is here, guys. It's going to break me with my son at home for the summer. I mean, that dude, he doesn't realize that half a dozen eggs, that's $4, bro. You can't eat 6 eggs at one meal. We got to break that up. But there's somebody out there right now who is looking at what the bird flu has done to the chicken population, the egg-laying population, and they are planning and creating so there'll be more chickens. And in a few years, guys, eggs are going to drop again. You know why? Because there's people doing hard work to create the new practices that are going to allow us to be safer and have better eggs. I'm glad somebody does it. And let me just say thank you to you delivery people who logistically make sure we can get access to goods and groceries that, listen, we take for granted every single day. Guys, it's my birthday this week. I had a great week. Had a wonderful week. Thank you. Woo! 50. That's right. Now, I went shopping with my wife, and I found these shoes. But they weren't in this color. And I went online, and I found them in this color, and I was like, I'm going to order them online because I don't want the color they got in the store. I want this color. And I ordered them, and it said they're going to be here June 11th. That's next Wednesday. But I'm wearing them today. How did that work? Because somebody got up early on Saturday morning and drove them to Murray, Kentucky. There is abundance in this world because people are willing to work for it. Now, I'd say that facetiously. That's funny. But think about this. We have fruit in Kroger and Walmart that comes from everywhere around the world out of season. You ever had strawberries in December? Where'd that come from? Abundance. Somebody provides for us abundance. The work that we do provides abundance. If you're doing this, can I just say thank you? That I get to eat fruit out of season. That I get to order goods to make my life better from different parts of the world. Thank you for providing logistics and order and the abundance. Now, you're saying, wow, that's a lot. Well, there's one more area I want to talk about. And listen, this is the most ignored area in all of our culture. And I say this not in like, oh, I can't believe you do it. It's just because it's so in front of us all the time, we don't even pay attention to it. Let me show you one more way in which God works, that you work and partner with God. The Lord God made all kinds of trees to grow out of the ground. Trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. Why didn't God just make an orderly and abundant world? Why did he have to create it also to be beautiful? Because he wanted to. God creates beauty for us to enjoy. And he did it just for the sheer fact of he loved to do it. And you've had these moments where you visit some place and you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness, the beauty of this place, right? You look at pictures of places where you want to go someday and you're like, you want to go because you want to experience the beauty firsthand. You want to see this like river or this mountain, and you're like, it's just a river or mountain. Why is it just logical? I'll tell you why. He put that in you as well, because beauty is valuable to God. So listen, if you work this way, if you work like God by creating music and art, and you listen to the radio all the time and you take for granted the fact that it's abundantly available through a digital streaming service, and you have lots and lots of different options of artists who create all kinds of music for you to work to. And you have artists who create all kinds of graphic design and art pieces in different places throughout our community for you to what? Be inspired by, to enjoy, not because it's logical, because it's just beautiful. And I don't get you people at all, because you'll spend hours and hours picking out just the right color of napkin to go with dinner, and I don't like, it doesn't matter, just get a paper towel. But when I sit down to dinner with my friends and everything's laid out perfectly in order, and it looks beautiful, and the food comes out on a plate and it looks beautiful and it tastes beautiful, art is created and inspires me, right? What about people who design your furniture in your houses so that you don't have to sit on a hard bench all the time? They put cushions on it. Or maybe you like the hard bench, but it's designed in such a way that it like fits with the straight lines. Or maybe you like the one with all the little curvy lines in it. It's got all this intricate detail. Whatever it is, your aesthetic. People designed that, and you get to go pick it out. People who grow plants at work, why would you do that? I can't grow plants in my house. Some of you are so good at this, you can just take a plant, sit it on somebody else's desk, and you take care of it for them. Or it's in the little lobby or whatever it is, and you take care, and you just love watering little plants. And I'm like, that's dumb, but you love it. And what about donating? Maybe you're not an artist yourself, but you realize how important it is to have beautiful spaces in our community for people to enjoy, and you donate your time or your money to parks and creating a space, because creating spaces for people to enjoy makes life better. Not because it's just orderly, not because it's abundant, because it's just beautiful. Those of you who create beautiful things in our world, can I just say thank you? Because what you do to us is remind us of a God who is generous and kind enough to create a beautiful world for us to enjoy. It wasn't just logical and purposeful. It was meaningful and inspiring. So when you partner with God, this is the big bottom line. When you partner with God in His work, you love your work. You want to know why you love doing that kind of work for people? Because that's the way God created you to work. To partner with Him to do the work for the thriving of other people. And here's what happened in Genesis. Everybody started taking all the order and the abundance and the beauty for themselves. They became selfish. Rather than creating order for the good of everybody around them, let's create an order that empowers me and me alone. Let's create enough abundance, but let's don't share any of it. Let's just keep it here at my place. And let's create all kinds of beautiful things, but we're not going to let anybody else have any of it or enjoy any of it. We're just going to keep it inside my little palace. And all throughout the rest of the story of Genesis, you know what people do? They keep thinking they're supposed to do their own thing, create their own order, create their own abundance, and create their own beauty for themselves and not do anything with it for the good of other people. And it created what in our world? Chaos, scarcity, and ugliness. And this is why you don't love your job. It's because the consequences of our sin makes work into a meaningless chore. It creates chaos, scarcity, and ugliness. And wherever you find sin, you find scarcity, ugliness, and chaos every single time. But here's the good news for those of us who follow Jesus. If you are a follower of Jesus, you know what you believe in? A God that loved this world so much, He created it with this order and abundance and beauty in it. And He put His images all over the place. And when they messed it up, He said, I'm just not going to let that stand. I'm going to send my son Jesus to redeem this world because they broke it. And I know it wasn't my fault, but I'm going to take ownership of it. I'm going to send my son to die on a cross, an ugly death, in the middle of a chaotic world, and bring order and abundance and beauty back through the people who will believe in Him, the church. And those of us who are followers of Jesus, you know what we have access to? The joy and the love of a job that brings us meaning and purpose beyond just making a salary so we can go on vacation next week. We get the joy of partnering with God to redeem this world through the work that we do. And listen, there's nothing better than doing orderly work, abundant work, and beautiful work wherever you are. So when people watch you work, they are confused at why you give so much of your life and energy to something that they just see as useless and worthless. And you're like, no, it's not useless and worthless to do this for those people, to make this world a better place, because God would be doing the same thing if we were here. And what an awesome opportunity for you as a follower of Jesus to go to work this week and do that kind of work. And here's what I promise, because it happened to me over and over again. When you do that kind of work and you give it away because you're just creating order, because I know you can keep messing it up, but I'm going to keep putting it back in order. And you create abundance for other people around you, and you create beauty for them. They want to know why you keep doing that. And it's simply this, guys. You can look at them and honestly say, it's because God did that for me. He brought order to my life. My life was chaotic before Jesus. I didn't know what I was going to do. He saved me from myself, and He brought order to it. And He brought abundance. Sometimes I don't have everything I need. It doesn't feel like it. But when I look around at the people I've got and the people who love me, the things that God's given me, I have enough. You know, sometimes life seems ugly, but when I think about what Jesus did for me and His love for me, I can see the beauty in the little things of every single day that He's given me. Listen, your perspective as a worker in this world can change. And I don't care if you're a retired person and you volunteer your time. Your work where you are changes this community. Changes it for the better. Because when you're partnering with God and He's partnering with you, amazing things happen. And you love your work. So I think for most of us, the question now is, which kind of work do you need to do this week yeah, I dropped it in there. Did you see what I did there? You do it for the people around you, for their thriving. So when you go to work this week, which of those three do you need to be doing? Do you need to bring some order to your workplace? Do you need to create some new systems and processes? Oh, I don't want to mess with that. To dig in to do that. I might do this, and I have to convince my boss. But hey, what if it were worth it to create a little bit more order, a little bit more system to make it work smoother? Would it be worth it for everybody around you? Would they be able to work more happily if you created that? What about creating abundance? Would it be better just like to share with what you got? There's just not enough work to go around. What if you shared in the abundance that you do have? What if you shared that with the people and you weren't fighting over this and that and that? There's enough sales for everybody. There's enough time for everybody. What if we could just share that? What if you just created something beautiful this week? Maybe it's as simple as a beautiful interaction at lunch. You sit down at that goofy table where everybody brings their little, and they're sitting there with a microwave, and boom, you out pop a speaker. And you throw on a good song for lunch, right? Whatever that good song is for you and your crew at work, and you just put a little bit of music on that just brightens music, right? The vibe of that. What if you could just create a little bit of beauty this week? I don't know what it is that God wants you to do, but here's what I know. I guarantee you, if you do the kind of work that God does, you'll love your work. It'll change the people around you. Let me pray for you. God, would you help us to see your work in our lives and around us, wherever we are this week, whether we're at work, whether we're at home, whether we're just with family and our kids, or whether with strangers who are trying to sell things to. God, in all of those places, we know that you're already at work and you're doing things. God, would you help us to spot that? Would you help us to come alongside you and partner with you to bring about the thriving of the people that we work with? Would you help us to move our attention off of our selfish selves and be willing to bring order and abundance and beauty to the people around us, because you have already given us access to the order and abundance and beauty of your kingdom through Jesus' death and resurrection. So let us not hang on to it, but instead to share it through our work. God, I pray that each individual in this room would do the kind of work that you would be doing where they are, and they would bring about a change in their workplace for the better. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.